Today, most enterprises are drowning in L3 and L4 support tickets. These are routine incidents that eat up IT teams' time while critical issues wait in the queue. The promise has been AI assistants that help agents work faster. But what if AI did not just assist? What if it took the ticket, worked the queue, and closed the case just like a human would? That's the shift from copilot to autonomous workers. And that's exactly what we are going to talk about in this episode of the Agentic Enterprise with Nenshad Bardoliwalla, Group Vice President of Product Management for AI Products at ServiceNow. Nenshad, it's great to have you on the show.
Hi, Swapnil. Thank you so much for having me.
Nenshad, ServiceNow describes autonomous workforce as a shift from AI that assists to AI that actually executes and completes job. What does that mean in practice? And can you walk us through what enables that shift technically? How is it different from the task-based agents companies are already using?
Sure. Happy to do that, Swapnil. So when we think of our autonomous workers and the notion of an AI specialist, I think you gave a small preview of that in your question. When we look at how people are using agents today, typically they are automating either tasks or processes, right? And processes themselves are made of tasks. What ServiceNow has done is moved us into the next wave of this revolution, which is to automate roles and responsibilities that exist in an organization. That is, if you imagine that a given person in an organization, like a service desk worker, is responsible for many different tasks, like triaging incidents that come in, categorizing those incidents, being able to look up information in a knowledge base and respond to somebody. All of those are individual processes that themselves are made up of many different tasks. So what ServiceNow has done is said, look, because of the power of our ability to combine deterministic workflows, right? We have, thousands of organizations who run their IT operations on ServiceNow. Because we have that backbone, we can insert the agentic technology. We know what IT service workers do on a day-to-day basis, and for the routine work that they do. For example, the lower priority tickets, the priority 3 or priority 4 tickets, where teams are completely overwhelmed with the volume of information coming in, we can deploy this autonomous worker in the system. It actually has a user ID, so it acts as a given user, and it takes work off the exact same queue that the human beings do. So you can go and assign this autonomous worker to handle the incidents that come in and respond, give results back to the end user, and ultimately resolve those tickets. So we are moving past the idea that you can only automate tasks or only automate processes, but we can actually personify a digital employee that has many of the same characteristics of a human being that can go and take on entire roles and responsibilities for someone. And that is enabled by ServiceNow's unique combination of deterministic workflows, right? We are a company that has pioneered workflow in the enterprise, and bringing the agentic technology and infusing it with the deterministic workflows, so that we can go and solve these problems in a unique way.
I mean, the fact is that organizations are complicated. There are different teams, different systems, IT, HR, CRM, procurement. How do these autonomous workers operate across all of that while still adhering to existing workflows, role-based access control, and all the governance and compliance guardrails that are already in place at enterprises? Especially now that we have been deploying AI in highly regulated industry like financial services and healthcare. So can you give us a picture?
Yeah, fantastic question, Swapnil. So this is actually the essence of ServiceNow's differentiation in the market with our agentic technologies. So what have customers already built today in their IT or HR or CRM systems on ServiceNow? They have built a role hierarchy. They have built an RBAC system. They have built an assignment mechanism. They have built escalation mechanisms. They have built policies for where work needs to flow in terms of regionalization. Okay, so the beauty of what we have done is to say all of those things still must hold true when our AI is part of the process, right? So what we see in the market is a lot of folks are building really powerful agentic systems that do not have those guardrails. They do not have those policies. They do not have the tie to a very robust, proven, deterministic workflow system. So our belief is that you need to focus on the things that are useful for an AI agent to do, but within the context or the framework of what makes sense from your organizational policies. So let me give an example. If you look at a human being, we may scan an incident and come up with a summary of that incident. And all of us, if I wrote that summary, or Swapnil, you wrote that summary, or any other service desk agent wrote that summary, it might be a little bit different, right? But that's okay. The part that we don't want hallucinated is, did we actually close the correct request? Did we route it to the right person? Did we shut down the correct system, right? So all of those types of very real world deterministic use cases, you want that to be, the agentic technology to be governed by that framework. And so what we see, a nice way to think of it is, here in the US, we talk about checks and balances. You want the agents to have the checks and balances with the deterministic policies so that you get to the right outcome for your customer. And that even if the agent hallucinates, the guardrails, policies, compliance procedures, etc., prevent bad outcomes from happening.
Let's talk about impact. What are you seeing from the perspective of measurable results from autonomous workforce in production? And as you know, we have talked about it, that we have seen most pilots fail. What does it actually take technically or structurally, culturally, to move beyond a pilot and into a production ready autonomous workforce?
So the first part of your question is we are very proud at ServiceNow that we always run our own technology in our own organization. So multiple of the products that I'm responsible for, whether it's these autonomous workers or our AI control tower, these technologies are used heavily by ServiceNow so that we prove the value to ourselves and our customer number one. And in that context, what we have seen is that these autonomous workers, when scoped to the right use case, when scoped to the right set of problems, you will have the ability to do this with very high degrees of autonomy. Upwards of 80% of the requests in that scope can work that way. However, not everybody is going to get to 80%. Why is that? Because there are both technical as well as organizational barriers. Let's start with the technical. If you want a system to automatically answer questions, it means your knowledge base has to be very high quality. And a lot of times our knowledge bases are not high quality. There's overlapping metadata. There are inconsistent answers to questions. People put many links into the knowledge base article, which means that then you have to go and look up all of those links in order to get the answer. So having a very well-structured knowledge base, having a very well-structured service catalog is really important, because just like a human being would get confused if they saw two knowledge base articles that overlapped in their assumptions, you're going to have the exact same set of challenges for an AI agent who tries to do the same thing. Okay, so number one, all the things that we've talked about in the history of enterprise technology, data, the quality of data, governance, making sure your business processes are effective, none of that changes with AI. AI cannot magically fix those things. You still have to do them. However, the technical side is actually not the biggest barrier. And this is probably not a surprise to you, Swapnil, because allowing a system to work autonomously means that human beings have to have a level of trust such that they are willing to allow the system to do the work for them. And that trust has to be earned. Okay. You've probably seen or experienced automobiles that have the notion of self-driving. Okay. And typically when you have a self-driving automobile, first you're going to kind of keep your hands very close to the wheel, right? Maybe you let go for a few seconds, but then you quickly grab it again, right? Then maybe you let go for 15 or 30 seconds and then you grab it again. Oh, suddenly you hit a bump and the self-driving car, doesn't quite react the way you want. You immediately grab the steering wheel again, right? And it's only over repeated interactions with that system that you finally get to the point where you say, you know what, actually for, 5-mile or 10-mile or 15-mile stretches, I'm willing to use the autonomous technology, but I always know that I can grab the steering wheel and take over. Okay. That exact same phenomenon happens with our automated workers. So where do customers start? They say, okay, this is an amazing value proposition if it's true, right? Everybody is skeptical because they're hearing lots of promises and they may not have gotten the results from other AI projects they've done. So we say, great, we understand how human beings operate. So the first thing we're going to do is act as a co-pilot autonomous worker, and we're going to tell you what answer we would have given and how we would have actually solved this request, right? So the system does all of the work. It does the triage. It does the categorization. It does the knowledge-based lookup. It creates the answer, but then it stops. And it enters the queue of a set of human beings who say, let me go review this to make sure that these are the types of answers we want to give. And then as the system gets smarter and the users become more comfortable, then they start to let go of the steering wheel a little bit longer. Okay, for my L4 support cases, right, which are obviously, they're at the bottom of the hierarchy, let's go and see what autonomous does. But then you have to have a very strong set of metrics. Are my users happy? What is the mean time to resolution? All the same things you would do if you were working with human agents. But the key thing is that it's not easy and it's not reasonable to expect somebody who has been doing things with humans for decades to just immediately say, sure, turn on the autonomous mode and I'll go for a walk and I'm sure everything will be fine. The way that we humans work is we need to be part of the change management process. We need to see the machine making the right decisions. And once we have a comfort level, we start allowing progressively increasing amounts of autonomy.
You folks acquired Moveworks and now you're launching EmployeeWorks. How does that fit into your broader strategy to create a unified AI-driven platform? What does EmployeeWorks bring to the table that goes beyond what Moveworks was already doing?
So the idea behind the acquisition of Moveworks is that we see the market changing in a way where employees expect high productivity tools in their environment. Okay, so if I am a user of a system like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini Studio, there are lots of great offerings. In my personal life, what can I do? I can go plan a trip very, very easily. I can go take my daughter's prom pictures and edit them to make them easier for people to view. So there are hundreds and hundreds of use cases in our personal life that we have discovered through these amazing technologies. What Moveworks, and I'll talk about EmployeeWorks in a second, which Moveworks is a key part of. What Moveworks brings to the table is that same experience, but in an enterprise context. I can ask it to help book my trips. I can ask it, please tell me when is my next time off. I can even ask it more sophisticated questions. Please tell me when the next time off day is. Please also look at my calendar for when my daughter's vacation is, and then choose the day, the 2 or 3 days that overlap in those areas. So Moveworks is this extremely powerful assistant for employees with employee context, employee security, the ability to go across all the systems employees care about, right? It's not just ServiceNow. Every day, me, even as a ServiceNow employee, we use systems like Workday. We use systems for procurement like Ariba. We use Concur for our expenses. What's beautiful about Moveworks is it provides that one front door experience that has access into all of these other systems to help do work for me and do so on my behalf. So that is where Moveworks provides this really high-powered enterprise conversational experience and also very powerful enterprise search capabilities that, again, goes across the entire enterprise. I want a single place as an employee where I can go into SharePoint, I can go into Slack, I can go into Google Drive, and have that one front door for my experience. Now, the conversational experience and the search experience is a critical part. But where EmployeeWorks even builds beyond Moveworks is that we also know that there needs to be an evolution of the way people are working with what are traditionally the portal type technologies, right? So what does a portal look like today? I log in, please sign up for your employee benefits. We have a session where we're going to be serving food for our employees in the office today, right? The portal allows you to push proactive notification to the users. Now, the beauty here is the next gen portal, we believe, is a very dynamic experience. Actually, you can create widgets on the fly based on the kinds of requests users are coming in with. The portal might say, oh, you're asking a question about how to get to one of the other offices at ServiceNow? Great. Let me dynamically draw a map for you. Or let me dynamically generate a widget in the context of the work you're trying to do. So, and then you can take those widgets and pin them on the screen, which again start to look a little bit more like the portal experience you're used to. So what we see is that EmployeeWorks becomes that single place where if you need to converse, if you need to search, if you need to push proactive notification, and you need a workspace that covers all your enterprise use cases as an employee, EmployeeWorks brings the full power of Moveworks and ServiceNow's historical strength in employee-facing solutions together in a single environment.
As you scale autonomous workforce across customers, are you seeing any hesitation, any blockers, any hurdles, whether technical or organizational, where companies are not ready for AI that acts autonomously? And if you look at regulations like CRA, then we are talking about data sovereignty, AI sovereignty. Are those creating friction, or are customers pushing for even more autonomous capabilities despite these realities?
I think from a regulatory context perspective, what we have found is that people in general with AI technologies, and I've been doing this for many years, they always like to start with internal facing use cases where they can control the risk of the technologies. So a lot of the use cases that we are bringing out today on the IT side, in the future in other areas like HR, et cetera, the risk exposure is much less than if it's actually facing customers or partners. So what we encourage customers to do in order to build their comfort level and their muscle with these technologies is start with a use case that's valuable, but that you know is not so mission critical that you will be really stressed out if it doesn't work correctly, right? So the reason we started with the service desk is because, look, the level 4 tickets that people get, the priority 4 tickets, those are use cases that tend to be very common, very mundane, very simple questions to answer, which means they are also low risk, right? We are not starting, as I said earlier, with the Sev1 issues, right? An entire system is down, a data center is not working, an entire cluster of machines has stopped. Those are the kind of use cases that I think we need our technology to evolve, and also customers need to be more confident that these types of technologies can solve these cases in a way that's comfortable to them. So I would say it's not the regulatory pressure comes in two areas. It's whether things face customers. And then, of course, in regulated industries like financial services, healthcare, the public sector. And there, again, we see a lot more appetite for taking a bit more risk on the internal facing processes than anything that's external or anything that's regulated. So, and that has been the truth for this type of technology for as long as I've been in the industry.
And Shad, this shift from AI that assists to AI that executes entire roles is a massive leap for enterprise operations. Thanks for joining me and sharing these insights. And as usual, I look forward to the next conversation. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And for those watching, if you are dealing with overwhelming support queues or trying to scale your IT, HR, or service operations, make sure to check out ServiceNow's autonomous workflow solutions. And don't forget to subscribe to TFIR, like this video, and share it with your team. Thanks for watching.